At 2 a.m., my husband's daughter took his car keys. By morning, the Lexus was badly damaged. My husband yelled, "Enough, stop blaming her," as if I had just stolen something and was making a scene. I didn't argue back because I already had proof. This wasn't a mistake, this was a choice. When the truth was exposed, my husband was shocked to the point he could barely breathe. Thank you for being here. Comment what time you're watching. Are you up at 2 a.m. like when this started? If you were me, would you stay quiet or confront immediately? Let me know. Quick note, this story includes dramatized elements for entertainment purposes, but the lesson is real. Something was wrong. The car was gone. I stood at the kitchen window, coffee mug frozen halfway to my lips, staring at the empty driveway. The space where Michael's Lexus should have been was just gray concrete and nothing else. 7:30 on a Saturday morning in early March. Brentwood was still quiet, Tennessee spring just starting to creep in. Daffodils were popping up along our street. It should have been peaceful. I set the mug down, my hand steadier than I felt. Maybe Michael had moved it. Maybe he'd gotten up early for an errand, but that didn't make sense. He never took the Lexus for errands. That car was his pride and joy. My heart started beating faster. I walked through the living room, up the stairs. Each step creaked in the quiet house. Our bedroom door was half open. Michael was still asleep, one arm thrown over his eyes. His chest rose and fell in the slow rhythm of someone who had no idea anything was wrong. I crossed to his dresser, the small wooden tray where he kept his keys. His wallet was there. His wedding ring was there. The keys were gone. My stomach dropped. I looked out the window at the driveway below, empty except for my Honda sitting exactly where I'd left it last night. I went downstairs again, faster this time, through the mudroom into the garage. My car sat in the dim light, Michael's truck beside it. But the third bay was empty. Someone had taken the Lexus, and they'd taken Michael's keys to do it. I knew who. Of course I knew who. But I'd learned over the past 3 years that in this house, proof didn't always matter. Not when it came to her. I walked back into the kitchen, my mind racing. Should I wake Michael now, call the police? What if there was some explanation I hadn't thought of? What if I was wrong, I'd been wrong before, or at least that's what Michael always said. When I'd mentioned money missing from my wallet, when I'd asked about the scratch on his truck, when I'd found my grandmother's necklace gone from my jewelry box, every time he'd had an explanation. Every time I was the one being paranoid, the suspicious stepmother who couldn't just trust his daughter, but the car was gone. The keys were gone. Those were facts, not suspicions. I picked up my coffee mug, then set it back down without drinking. The coffee had gone cold anyway. I stood there in my kitchen, morning sunlight streaming through the windows, trying to decide what to do next. My phone sat on the counter where I'd left it earlier. I picked it up thinking maybe I should call Michael's phone. Maybe he'd wake up and this would all have some simple explanation. Maybe I was overreacting. The screen lit up in my hand. One new message from a number I didn't recognize. I stared at it for a moment, my thumb hovering over the notification. Something told me that once I opened it, everything was going to change. That whatever was in that message was going to make this real in a way I couldn't ignore. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. The kitchen suddenly felt too quiet, too still, like the whole house was holding its breath. I tapped the message. First the sky, then trees, then twisted metal, then I saw all of it. The vehicle looked like it had been through a compactor. The front end, crumpled inward hood, folded back on itself in waves of silver. Windshield shattered airbags hanging through like deflated balloons. One headlight dangling by wires. The driver's side door caved in, and wrapped around the whole mess was a telephone pole. Michael's Lexus, or what was left of it. My legs felt weak. I pulled out a kitchen chair and sat down. More messages came through the phone, buzzing in my hand. "This is Sophie Turner. I'm friends with Danielle. She wanted me to reach out. There was an accident early this morning, around 4:30. Nobody's hurt, thank God. But the car..." We went to a party at Tim's Ford Lake, about 2 hours from Nashville. Danielle had some drinks. Not a lot, she said she was fine. But on the way back, on one of those back roads with no lights, she didn't see the curve. "I'm so sorry," I know she's going to be in huge trouble, but I thought someone should tell you before she gets home." I read every word twice. Then I started taking screenshots. The mangled vehicle, every message, the timestamp, Sophie's number, everything. My hands shook, but I made sure each screenshot was clear. Document everything. Because later, when stories changed, having proof mattered. 4:30 in the morning. While Michael and I slept, Danielle had crept into our room, taken his keys from his dresser, driven his brand new car 2 hours away to a party, been drinking, then wrapped $55,000 around a telephone pole on a back road. And now I had to go upstairs and tell my husband his daughter had destroyed his car. His daughter, not our daughter. That distinction mattered in this house. I thought about the past 3 years, all the time something went wrong and somehow ended up being my fault. The missing grocery money Danielle swore she hadn't taken, the scratch on Michael's truck after she borrowed it, the broken lamp, the unpaid speeding ticket. Every single time Michael found a reason why it wasn't really her fault, why I was being too harsh, too suspicious, too much like a stepmother. This time, there were photos, text messages from her friend, a totaled vehicle with Danielle behind the wheel. And I already knew it wouldn't matter. He was going to defend her anyway. Ask why I didn't stop. Didn't hear her leave, didn't somehow prevent this. He was going to make that face that said I was being unreasonable for expecting his 23-year-old daughter to act like an adult. But I had to tell him. I stood up, phone clutched in my hand. Morning sun streamed through the windows, making everything look normal and peaceful. Like this was just another Saturday in Brentwood. I walked to the stairs, put my hand on the railing, took a breath. Each step felt heavier than the last. I stopped outside our bedroom door. Michael was stirring inside now, the bed creaking. He'd be awake soon anyway. I raised my hand, knocked softly. "Michael." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "We need to talk." His face changed the moment I said it. The door opened. Michael stood there in that old University of Tennessee, t-shirt hair sticking up on one side, squinting at me in the hallway light, still half asleep but alert enough to know something was wrong. "What's going on?" He stepped back, letting me into the room. I walked past him to the window, pulled the curtain aside. "Look." He came up beside me, following my gaze down to the driveway. I watched his expression shift as he registered what he was seeing, or rather what he wasn't seeing. "Where's my car?" "Gone." "What do you mean, gone?" He leaned closer to the glass, like maybe he'd just missed it somehow. "Where did it go?" I turned from the window and crossed to his dresser, pointed at the wooden tray where he kept his things. "Your keys are gone too." Michael moved quickly, then coming over to check for himself. His wallet sat there, his wedding ring, loose change from his pockets. But the key fob that was always there, always in the same spot, wasn't. Someone took them. His voice had an edge to it now. "Someone came in here while we were sleeping and took my keys." I didn't say anything, just watched him work through it. "We need to call the police." He was looking around the room now like the keys might have fallen somewhere. "This is breaking and entering, theft. That car cost $55,000. "Michael." "They can track it right, the GPS system. They can find it and Michael." I held out my phone. He stopped mid-sentence, looked at me, then at the phone in my hand. Something in my expression must have told him he didn't want to see what was on that screen, but he took it anyway. I watched the color drain from his face as he stared at the screen. His hands started to shake. "What is this?" His voice came out hoarse. Where? Keep reading." He swiped up, eyes moving across the messages. I didn't need to see the screen to know what he was reading. Sophie's texts, the explanation, the details I'd already memorized. Tim's Ford Lake, the party, the drinking. 4:30 in the morning. His jaw clenched. Who sent this? Sophie, Danielle's friend. The name hung in the air between us. I watched him make the connections, the missing keys, the missing car, the messages from his daughter's friend. "No." He shook his head. "That's not. Danielle wouldn't take my car without asking. She wouldn't do that." I stayed quiet. Let him process. There has to be another explanation. His voice got stronger, more defensive. Maybe someone else took the keys. Maybe this person got confused about whose car it was. Maybe... Your keys were on that dresser when we went to bed, I said quietly. Your car was in the driveway. Now they're both gone and her friend is texting me from 2 hours away. Michael stared at the phone in his hand, then at me, then back at the phone. Call her, I said. Call Danielle and ask where she is. He stared at the screen for a long time. I could see the moment it really hit him. Not just the shock, but the weight of what it meant. His daughter, his car, his $55,000 mistake sitting in pieces 2 hours away. His thumb moved, found her contact, hit call. The room filled with ringing, once, twice, 3 times. Voicemail. Danielle's voice bright and cheerful. Hey, it's me, leave a message. Michael ended the call. Tried again immediately. Same thing, straight to voicemail. Maybe her phone died. He said more to himself than to me. After the accident. Maybe it got damaged. I didn't respond, just watched him try a 3rd time, a 4th. He started pacing then, window to dresser, dresser to window. His hand kept going to his hair, running through it until it stuck up at odd angles. This doesn't make sense. His voice had that edge people get when they're convincing themselves of something. Even if she did take the car, which I'm not saying she did, but even if she did, she would have asked first. She knows she can borrow my vehicles. I thought about the scratch on his truck, the one that appeared after she borrowed it last month. The one he'd insisted wasn't worth mentioning. Maybe there was an emergency. He continued, still pacing. Maybe something happened and she needed to get somewhere fast and didn't want to wake us. At 2 a.m. to go to a party. He shot me a look. We don't know it was a party. This Sophie person said party, but maybe she meant something else. I kept my face neutral. Said nothing. Michael tried calling again and again. Each time, voicemail. He moved downstairs. I followed after a few minutes, found him in the living room, still pacing, still calling. The morning sun was higher now, streaming through the windows. Where is she? He was talking to himself, phone pressed to his ear. Why isn't she answering? I sat on the couch. Picked up yesterday's book, though I didn't open it. Just needed something to do with my hands. You're very calm about all this, Michael said suddenly. I met his eyes. What would you like me to be, I don't know, worried, concerned? My daughter's car is totaled and your car is totaled, I corrected quietly. He stopped, stared at me. What, your car? Not hers. She doesn't have a car. She took yours. His jaw tightened. He turned away, started pacing again, tried calling again, voicemail again. The hours crawled. 9 became 10. 10 became 11. Michael wore a path in the carpet between living room and kitchen. Every few minutes, another call. Every time, nothing. I made coffee. He didn't drink it. Around 11:30, he finally sat down, elbows on his knees, phone in hand, staring at nothing. She's going to have an explanation, he said. When she gets here, there's going to be a reason that makes sense. I didn't answer. He'd already decided what he wanted to believe. The clock on the wall ticked. 11:45, noon, 12:15. Michael checked his phone for the 100th time. No missed calls, no texts, nothing. What if something happened to her? His voice was quieter now. What if she's hurt and we're just sitting here? Sophie said everyone was okay. But what if she's wrong? What if... He stopped mid-sentence. We both heard it at the same time. A key sliding into the front door lock. She looked terrible, but her eyes were sharp, calculating. I saw her before Michael did, through the front window, watching her come up the driveway. Hair tangled and hanging loose around her face. Last night's makeup smeared under her eyes, black streaks running down to her jawline. Fitted top and jeans that looked wrinkled and slept in. The door swung open. She stepped inside, and that's when I noticed the cut. Just above her left eyebrow, a thin line of dried blood. Not deep, but visible. Michael was on his feet before I could blink, crossing the living room in 3 strides. Danielle, oh my God, are you okay? His hands went to her shoulders, her face checking for damage. What happened? Are you hurt? And then she started crying. Not quiet tears, the loud, gasping, theatrical kind that made her whole body shake. She collapsed into his arms, face buried in his chest, letting out broken sobs that filled the entire house. "Daddy," she choked out. "Daddy, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Michael wrapped his arms around her, one hand stroking her hair. He shot me a look over her shoulder, the kind that said I was overreacting, that I should see how traumatized she was, that this wasn't the time. I stayed where I was on the couch, didn't move, didn't say anything. Danielle kept crying, shoulders heaving. I was so scared. It was so scary. I thought, "It's okay?" Michael's voice was soft, soothing. "You're safe now. You're home." I picked up my phone from the coffee table, pulled up the photos Sophie had sent, held it up where Danielle could see it over Michael's shoulder. Her eyes flicked to the screen, just for a second, but I saw it. The recognition. The flash of panic before she buried her face back in Michael's chest and cried harder. Michael turned. Following her gaze, saw me with my phone raised. His expression shifted to something harder. I didn't lower it. He pulled back from Danielle slightly, still keeping one arm around her. "What happened?" His voice was gentle, careful. "Can you tell us?" Danielle lifted her head, wiped at her face, smearing the makeup more. Eyes red and puffy, tears still streaming. "I stayed at a friend's house last night," she said, voice catching. "I didn't want to bother you guys, so I borrowed a car to get there." Michael nodded, encouraging. Like this made perfect sense. I watched her carefully. The way her eyes kept darting to me, then away. The way her hands twisted together. "I was going to be back before you even woke up," she continued. "I didn't think it would be a big deal. But then..." She trailed off, fresh tears spilling over. "Then what?" Michael prompted. "Then there was an accident." Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. "On the way back, someone ran me off the road. It wasn't my fault. I swear it wasn't. This truck came out of nowhere, and I had to swerve, and then there was the pole, and..." She dissolved into sobs again. Michael pulled her close, murmuring comfort. His eyes found mine, and I could see it. The relief, the acceptance. See, she had an explanation. It wasn't her fault. I stayed quiet. Let the moment play out. "I was so scared," Danielle whispered into his chest. "I could have died. But you didn't." Michael kissed the top of her head. "You're okay. That's what matters." I looked at my phone screen, at the photos, at Sophie's messages that told a very different story. Then I looked up at Danielle. Her face was still pressed against Michael's shoulder, but her eyes were open, watching me, waiting to see what I would do. Michael was rubbing her back now, completely buying into the performance. "It's okay, sweetheart. Accidents happen. The important thing is you're safe." I let the silence stretch. Let them settle into this version of events. Let Michael start to relax, thinking this was all going to blow over. Then I spoke, my voice calm, even. "Which car did you borrow?" The room went very still. Danielle's head lifted slightly. "What? You said you borrowed a car." I held her gaze. "Which car?" She hesitated, just for a second. Her mouth opened, then closed. Eyes darting to Michael, then back to me. I could see her brain working, trying to figure out which answer would get her out of this. I thought... She stopped, started again. "I thought it was your car, Michelle." I didn't blink. "My car's been in the garage all night." Another pause, another calculation. Then her face changed, hardened slightly. "No, wait. I asked you yesterday. Remember, I asked if I could borrow your car and you said it was fine." Her voice got stronger, more confident. "You told me I could take it." I kept my voice level. "I never said that." "Yes, you did." Her eyes went wide, innocent. "We were in the kitchen and I asked about using your car this weekend and you said, okay. That didn't happen." "Daddy." She turned to Michael, voice breaking again. "She's lying. I swear I asked her. I wouldn't just take a car without asking. You know I wouldn't." Michael looked at me, then at Danielle, then back at me. I could see him trying to work it out, but I already knew which way he was leaning. "Michelle," his voice was careful, "did Danielle ask you about the car?" "No." "Are you sure maybe she asked and you forgot, or—" "I'm sure Michael." Danielle made a sound between a sob and a laugh. "I can't believe this. I almost died and you're calling me a liar." She turned back to Michael, grabbing his arm. "Someone ran me off the road. A truck came out of nowhere and I had to swerve and I couldn't—" Her breathing got faster. "I hit the pole and everything went black and I was so scared. I thought I was going to die." Hey. Michael's arms went around her. "You're safe. It's okay." "It's not okay." Her voice rose. "I could have been killed and she's standing there accusing me. I asked permission. I did. She just doesn't want to admit it because then she'd have to take responsibility. I almost had to admire it, the way she was turning this around, making herself the victim, making me the villain." Michael was stroking her hair, making soothing sounds. His eyes met mine and I saw it, the accusation, the disappointment. "Michelle, this isn't the time." His voice had an edge now. "She's been through a trauma. Can we deal with this later?" I stayed quiet, watching Danielle's face pressed against his chest, watching the way her eyes were open, watching me. No tears now, just that calculating look. "I can't believe you're being so cruel," Danielle whispered loud enough for both of us to hear. "I know you don't like me. I know you wish Dad never married you and brought me into this house, but I never thought you'd lie just to get me in trouble." "Danielle, that's enough," Michael said, but his voice was gentle. Not the sharp reprimand it should have been. "It's true, though." She pulled back to look at him, tears streaming again. "She's always watching me, always waiting for me to mess up, and now she's using this accident to turn you against me." Michael's jaw tightened. He looked at me. "Can you give us a minute? Please?" The please was supposed to sound like a request, but it wasn't. It was a dismissal. He was choosing her. Again. I looked at them both. Michael with his arm around his daughter. Danielle with her face buried in his chest but her eyes on me, waiting to see if she'd won. And I smiled. Not a big smile, just a small one. Michael saw it. "What's funny?" "Nothing's funny." Danielle's eyes narrowed. "Then why are you smiling?" I looked at Michael. "You're right. She's been through something traumatic. You should comfort her." He looked confused, suspicious. "Okay." I turned toward the stairs, stopped, looked back. "I have one more thing to say." My voice came out steady, calm. Michael was still staring at me, arm around Danielle, waiting for whatever I was about to say. Danielle had gone very still, her eyes locked on mine. I took a breath. "She didn't take my car, Michael. She took yours." The room froze. Everything stopped. Even the air felt like it had stopped moving. Michael blinked. "What?" "My car." I kept my voice level. "It's in the garage. It's been there all night. Check if you don't believe me." His mouth opened, closed. He looked at me like I was speaking a different language. I pulled up the messages on my phone again, held it out toward him. "Your Lexus ES, your $55,000 car, not mine." Michael's eyes went to the phone, really looked at it this time. Not just seeing the damage, but seeing what had been damaged. His car, his silver Lexus that he'd spent weeks researching, that he'd been so careful with, that he'd parked in that driveway every single night. All the color drained from his face. "No." Danielle's voice came out high panicked. "No, I didn't. It was dark. I couldn't see which car it was." I turned to look at her. "You took the keys from our bedroom at 2 a.m, while we were asleep." I didn't know. She was backing away from Michael, now hands up. "I thought they were Michelle's keys. I thought I was taking her car." "My keys are on my own dresser," I said quietly, "in my own jewelry box. Michael's keys are on his dresser, in his tray, where they always are." Michael's voice came out rough. "You took my car. Daddy, I didn't know it was yours." It was dark and I was in a hurry and I just grabbed keys and my keys, his voice was getting louder, from my dresser in our bedroom. I made a mistake. Danielle's voice cracked. It was an honest mistake. The cars looked similar and it was dark outside and my Lexus looks nothing like Michelle's Honda. Michael's hands had dropped to his sides. He was just staring at her now. Nothing alike. But in the dark, you took my keys without asking while I was sleeping. Each sentence came out like he was trying to make sense of it. You took my car. Danielle's eyes were wild now, darting between us. Someone ran me off the road. That's what matters. I could have died and you're worried about whose car it was. Yes. The word came out flat from Michael, because you just spent the last 10 minutes lying to my face about borrowing Michelle's car, about Michelle giving you permission, about all of it. I was confused. I was in shock. Stop. Michael held up a hand. His voice had gone quiet, dangerous quiet. Just stop. Danielle's mouth snapped shut. Michael looked down at my phone again, at the photos, at the messages. $55,000, he said almost to himself. I still owe $35,000 on that car. Daddy, you took my car. He wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at nothing, his eyes unfocused. You drove it 2 hours away. You were drinking. His jaw clenched. You drove my car drunk. I wasn't that drunk. And someone hit me. It wasn't my fault. Michael's eyes snapped to her. Whose fault was it then? Mine, Michelle's, who exactly is responsible for you taking my keys and destroying my car? Danielle opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. That's what I thought. Michael's voice was cold in a way I'd never heard before. He sat down heavily on the couch, put his head in his hands. The room was silent except for Danielle's ragged breathing. I stayed where I was, phone still in my hand, watching it all finally sink in. Task 8. When he looked up, his eyes were different, not confused anymore, not hurt. This was something colder, harder. Like a switch had finally flipped. He stood slowly, turned to face Danielle. You took my keys. His voice was quiet, too quiet. From my dresser, while I was asleep. Danielle's hands twisted together. I was going to ask, but you were sleeping and I didn't want to, so you stole them. Don't say it like that. What should I call it? His voice sharpened. Taking someone's property without permission. What's the word for that? She flinched. It's not stealing when it's family. It's exactly stealing. Michael's jaw was tight, especially when you lie about it after. I didn't lie, You told me it was Michelle's car. You said she gave you permission. You looked me in the eye and lied. Danielle's eyes filled with tears, but this time Michael didn't move toward her, didn't soften. What about the drinking? His voice cut through her crying. Just a few. Her voice was small. Just a couple. I was fine. A couple drinks. His hands clenched. And then you got behind the wheel. I was fine to drive. Someone ran me off the road. That's what caused... You drove drunk. Each word came out hard. In my car. I wasn't drunk. You'd been drinking and you were driving. That's a DUI, Danielle. Sophie's messages said there was a party at Tim's Ford Lake. I said quietly that you'd been drinking, that the accident happened on a back road around 4:30 in the morning. Michael's face got harder. A party, 2 hours away, drinking, then back roads in the middle of the night. I didn't mean for this to happen, but it did happen. Michael's voice was cold. Everything before that crash was a choice you made. It was an accident. The crash was an accident. Stealing my keys wasn't. Driving drunk wasn't. Lying to my face wasn't. Danielle's mouth opened, closed. No response. Insurance will pay for it, she finally said, voice desperate. Insurance doesn't pay when the driver is unauthorized and intoxicated, I said. Danielle's head snapped toward me. They have to pay. That's what insurance is for. Not for this. Not when you stole the car and were driving under the influence. Michael had gone very still. I could see it sinking in. The totaled car, the debt he still owed, the fact that insurance wasn't going to cover any of it. I'm still paying for a car that doesn't exist anymore. His voice came out hollow. Because of you. Daddy, I'm sorry. I'll get a job. I'll pay you back. With what? He wasn't yelling. That might have been easier. His voice was cold. You don't have a job, no savings. Even with full-time work, it would take you years. Danielle's face crumpled. I don't know what else to say. There's nothing to say. Michael turned away, walked to the window, stared out at the empty driveway. The silence stretched. Danielle stood there crying, looking between Michael's back and me, waiting for someone to make this better. But nobody was going to fix it. I turned and walked toward the stairs, left them in that living room, father and daughter standing in what was left of their relationship. Behind me, I heard Danielle's voice, small and broken. Daddy. Michael didn't answer. I climbed the stairs and didn't look back. 3 days later, the call came. I was upstairs when I heard Michael's voice rise from the home office. Not yelling, that controlled frustration of someone trying to stay calm and failing. I moved to the stairs, his voice carried up. Yes, I understand, but... A pause. No, I'm not saying she had permission. I'm saying she's my daughter and there has to be some way. Silence as someone responded. Ms. Coleman, please. I still owe a significant amount, and if the insurance doesn't... A woman's voice came through faintly, professional, unmoved. She wasn't authorized, I know, but surely there's an exception. More talking. No, she doesn't have her own policy. She lives here. I didn't think... I came down the stairs, stood in the doorway. Michael sat at his desk, hand pressed to his forehead, gripping his phone. Intoxicated, he repeated flatly. Yes, there was drinking, but... The woman cut in. Ms. Coleman, I've been with your company 15 years, never filed a claim, never missed a payment, and you're telling me... Whatever she said made him close his eyes. I understand the policy. I'm asking if there's any flexibility, any review process. Short response. Then I'll take my business elsewhere. Another brief response. Fine. Hard. Consider this my formal complaint. He ended the call, sat there staring at nothing. They said no. I said from the doorway. He didn't look up. Unauthorized driver, intoxication, family member theft, policy excludes coverage. The claim is denied. Completely. He looked at me. 15 years, and the one time I need them. The one time Danielle needed them, I corrected. His jaw tightened. He didn't argue. I walked to the kitchen. He followed minutes later. Papers spread across the table, bank statements, loan documents, insurance policy with yellow highlighting. He sat heavily, picked up one paper, set it down, another. I still owe $35,000, he said to the air, on a car in pieces at some junkyard. I poured coffee, brought 2 mugs to the table, set one before him, sat across. He wrapped both hands around it, didn't drink. What are we going to do? I looked at him. We or you and Danielle. He flinched. Michelle. It's a real question, even voice. This debt, this mess, is it ours or yours and hers? She's part of this family. She's your daughter, not mine. I held his gaze. That debt is from her decision, not mine. He stared at his coffee. So it's my problem. I'm saying it's not mine. The words sat between us, harsh, true. His shoulders sagged. He looked older, tired beyond sleep. I don't know how to fix this. Maybe you can't. I stood, left the kitchen, left him with his papers and impossible math. That evening, Michael went to bed early. Headache, he said. We both knew better. I stayed downstairs, cleaned, put away the scattered papers, tried reading, couldn't focus. Around 10, I found myself in the home office, sitting in the dark, thinking about the past 3 days. Danielle hiding in her room, Michael's defeated face, $35,000 hanging over everything. My eyes caught the small camera in the ceiling corner. I'd almost forgotten. Weeks ago, after my grandmother's necklace disappeared, Michael telling me I must have misplaced it, making me feel crazy for thinking someone took it. I'd installed the camera, never checked the footage, never had reason. Until now. I pulled my laptop from the drawer, opened it. The camera software was still there. 3 days ago, Danielle came into our bedroom at 2 a.m, took those keys while we slept. What else had she done when we weren't watching? I clicked the software open. The camera software interface filled my laptop screen, a grid of thumbnail images stretching back months. I stared at the timeline. January, February, March. The camera had recorded everything. Months of footage sitting in this software, waiting. I scrolled through the thumbnails. The entryway at different times, different days. Morning light, afternoon shadows. The grainy gray of night vision mode. Each tiny square a moment captured a potential answer to questions I hadn't known to ask. My hand hovered over March 15th. Divi nulle tris, priexpus diena. Footsteps on the stairs behind me. I didn't turn around, didn't close the laptop, just kept staring at that timestamp, my cursor frozen over the play button. "What are you doing?" Danielle's voice came from the doorway. I still didn't look at her. "Michelle." Sharper now. "What are you doing on that laptop?" I heard her move closer, felt her presence behind my shoulder, then silence. The kind of silence that means someone's seen something they weren't supposed to see. I glanced up. Danielle stood 2 feet away staring at my screen, at the camera grid, at the timeline stretching back months, at the thumbnail paused under my cursor, the entryway dark timestamp glowing in the corner. Her face changed, color draining, jaw tightening. She knew exactly what was on that footage. "You're spying on me." I turned back to the screen without answering. "Are you serious right now? You put a camera in the house?" Still, I said nothing, just looked at those thumbnails. January 22nd, February 8th, February 19th, March 3rd, March 15th. "This is insane." Her voice pitched higher. You're not my mother." The words exploded out of her sharp and vicious. I sat perfectly still. "Why are you even in this house?" Danielle moved around the couch, putting herself between me and the laptop. "You don't belong here." I met her eyes, kept my expression neutral. "You stole my dad from me." Her hands clenched into fists. "Everything was fine before you came. Everything was perfect." I let the words hang in the air. Didn't defend myself, didn't argue, didn't engage. She was waiting for me to react, to yell back, to justify, to give her something to fight against. I gave her nothing. "Say something." Danielle's voice cracked. "You're just going to sit there." "I think you should go upstairs." The calm in my voice seemed to enrage her more. "You can't tell me what to do. This is my dad's house. You're just some woman he married." I stood up slowly. Danielle took a step back. "Upstairs," I repeated, quiet but firm. "Now." "I don't have to listen to you." "Then don't listen, but leave this room." We stared at each other, her chest heaving, face flushed with anger. Me standing there, hands steady, meeting her glare without flinching. For a moment, I thought she might actually swing at me. Instead, she spun around and stormed toward the stairs. "You're a controlling bitch!" The words flung over her shoulder. Her footsteps pounded up the stairs. The bedroom door slammed so hard the frame rattled. Something fell off a shelf somewhere. I heard the distant crash, then silence. I sat back down. My hands were shaking now, adrenaline finally catching up. My heart hammered against my ribs. "You stole my dad from me." The words echoed in the quiet room, but the evidence was right there on the screen. Months of it, time-stamped, recorded, undeniable. I took a slow breath, let it out, took another. The laptop sat open in front of me, that grid of thumbnails still glowing. March 15th, 2:03 a.m. Whatever was on that footage, whatever I was about to see, there was no going back after this. I steadied my hand, moved the cursor to the thumbnail, clicked play. The footage began to roll. That footage is about to play. But first, Comment 1 if you're still here with me. Quick note, this story includes dramatized elements. Not your thing, you can exit now. For everyone else, let me show you what that camera caught. Black and white footage filled the screen. Timestamp glowing in the corner, 2:03 a.m. March 15th. The grainy view of our entryway. Night vision mode turned everything into shades of gray. The console table. The mirror above it. The stairs leading up into darkness. Everything still. Silent. The timestamp ticking forward. Then movement at the top of the stairs. I leaned closer to the screen. Danielle crept down step by careful step. She wore going-out clothes, jeans, a fitted top jacket, not pajamas. She'd been dressed and ready, waiting for the right moment. She paused on the bottom step, stood completely still, head tilted, listening. Her gaze shifted toward the hallway where our bedroom sat. She waited there for 5 full seconds, watching that darkened doorway. Then she moved to the console table. Michael always dropped his keys there when he came home. Car keys, house keys, all of them in the wooden bowl we kept by the mirror. The Lexus key fob was distinctive even in black and white. Larger than the others, the Toyota logo visible on one side. Danielle's hand reached into the bowl. Her fingers sorted through the keys, found the right one, lifted it out. She held it up to examine it, making sure, then slipped it into her jacket pocket. Another glance toward our bedroom. Still nothing. Still quiet. She crossed to the front door, opened it slowly. I could see her shoulder angle, the careful way she eased it wide enough to slip through. Then she was gone. The entryway sat empty. The timestamp ticked forward. 2:04 a.m. 2:05 a.m. I stared at that empty hallway for 10 more seconds before I reached for the mouse, rewound the footage, watched it again. Danielle coming down the stairs. The pause, the listening, the deliberate approach to the key bowl, the examination of the fob before pocketing it. No question what I'd just seen. This wasn't impulse. Wasn't some panicked, stupid decision made in the heat of the moment. She'd planned it. Gotten dressed. Waited until she thought we were asleep. Taken the keys with full awareness of what she was doing. Left the house at 2:03 a.m. Crashed the car at 4:30 a.m. 2.5 hours between theft and accident. Where had she been? Who had she been with? How fast had she been driving on those back roads by the lake? I sat back processing. But something nagged at me. Something about the way she'd paused at that console table. The way her hand had hovered over the bowl for just a moment before reaching in. Not the movement of someone grabbing keys in panic. The movement of someone who'd done this before, who knew exactly where to look, exactly what to take. My eyes drifted back to the camera software, to that timeline stretching back months. January, February, March. How many other times had she crept down those stairs? I scrolled backward through the footage, clicked on a random date in February. The February 8th footage played. Danielle alone in the entryway, mid-morning light streaming through the window. She glanced up the stairs. That same careful listening pose I'd just seen on the March footage. Head tilted, body still waiting. Satisfied we weren't around, she moved to the console table. Opened the drawer underneath, my jewelry drawer. I watched her pull out the small velvet box where I kept my everyday pieces. She opened it, rifled through the contents with casual familiarity, selected a bracelet. I recognized it even in the video quality, the thin silver chain I'd worn constantly until it disappeared. She pocketed it, closed the drawer, walked away like nothing had happened. My stomach twisted. I clicked another date. January 22nd, 2:47 p.m. The footage loaded. Same angle, different lighting. Winter afternoon. Danielle appeared on screen. Same checking glance up the stairs. Same approach to the drawer. This time she took earrings. The pearl studs Michael had given me for my birthday last year. I'd torn the house apart looking for those. Another date. February 19th morning. Same pattern. Drawer open, something taken, drawer closed. March 3rd. Again. I kept clicking. Kept watching. Each time the same careful behavior. The listening pause, the quick glance around, the drawer. Something disappearing into her pocket or purse. I started counting. 7 times in 2 months. Maybe more on dates I hadn't checked yet. 7 times she'd stolen from me. And I'd blamed myself every single time. The pearl earrings. I'd thought I'd lost them at the gym. The silver bracelet from my mother. I'd assumed it fell off somewhere, retraced my steps for days. My grandmother's pendant necklace, the one I'd cried over. I'd convinced myself I'd been careless, that I didn't deserve to have nice things if I couldn't keep track of them. But no, they'd been stolen. Methodically, repeatedly. While I lived in the same house, while I questioned my own memory, while I apologized to Michael for being so scatterbrained lately, I sat back from the laptop, months of gaslighting. "Did you check your jewelry box?" Danielle had asked when I mentioned the missing earrings, her voice so helpful, so concerned. "Maybe you left it at work," she'd suggested about the bracelet with that sympathetic head tilt. "You've been stressed lately, Michelle. Sometimes we misplace things when we're stressed." That one about the necklace delivered with such gentle condescension, all while she knew exactly where everything had gone. My hands curled into fists. She'd watched me tear the house apart, watch me blame myself, watch me apologize for my own carelessness, and said nothing. I grabbed my phone, then stopped. "Put it down. Evidence first. I needed more than camera footage." I opened a browser window, typed into the search bar Danny B_Nash Poshmark. The profile loaded. Danielle B., Nashville TN member since January 2024. 279 items sold. The profile picture showed a generic Nashville skyline. No face, nothing identifying, but the username Danny B_Nash. Danielle Bennett Nashville. Not exactly subtle. I clicked into her active listings. Jewelry, clothes, accessories, shoes. Most of it I didn't recognize, probably her own things. But then I scrolled down to the sold items. My breath caught. There. Third item down. Gorgeous silver bracelet, delicate chain, perfect condition. My mother's bracelet. I clicked on it. The photo showed it laid out on a white background, the clasp clearly visible. The tiny 925 stamp I'd always looked for when I wore it. Sold. $45. Sold to someone named Jennifer in Franklin 3 weeks ago. I kept scrolling. The pearl earrings. Beautiful pearl studs, like new. Sold. $65. A necklace I'd loved, thin gold chain with a small pendant. Sold. $35. Gold hoops Michael had given me for Christmas 2 years ago. Sold. $85. Each listing cheerful, enthusiastic. Gorgeous. Perfect. From my personal collection. My stolen jewelry sold online like it belonged to her. I kept scrolling, my hands shaking now. There had to be more, and there was. I kept scrolling through the sold listings. More jewelry, more clothes, items I didn't recognize mixed with things that made my chest tighten. Then I stopped. My heart seemed to stop with it. Vintage gold necklace with charm. The photo loaded. Delicate gold chain laid out on white fabric. Small oval locket hanging from the center. I could see the tiny engraving on the back edge barely visible in the image. My grandmother's necklace. I stared at the screen. That necklace was the last thing I had from her. The only physical piece left after she died 5 years ago. My mother had given it to me at the funeral. "She wanted you to have this." I'd worn it on my wedding day to Michael, tucked under my dress where only I knew it was there, feeling the weight of it against my skin, connecting me to her on a day she couldn't be present for. I wore it on hard days, touched it when I missed her, kept it safe in that drawer because it meant everything to me. The listing description was brief, clinical. Vintage gold necklace with charm, great condition, classic piece. No mention that it was an heirloom. No mention that someone had loved it, worn it for 40 years, passed it down with trembling hands and tears. Just a vintage piece, a thing to be sold. Sold $85. Sold to Patricia M. in Memphis. 2 months ago, January 18th. $85. The cost of a nice dinner, a tank of gas and groceries, a pair of shoes on sale. I'd cried for 3 days when it disappeared. torn the house apart, checked every pocket, every drawer, every corner, retraced my steps for a week, and Danielle had sold it for $85. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely control the mouse. I took screenshots, the profile page, this listing, every sold listing I'd found, the bracelet, the earrings, the hoops, the necklaces, all of it. 23 screenshots saved to my desktop. Then I opened the camera footage folder, the 7 videos I'd already saved, February 8th, January 22nd, February 19th, March 3rd, the others. Each one showing Danielle at that drawer, her hand taking something, pocketing it. I created a new folder, named it Evidence, dragged everything into it. The screenshots, the videos, file after file documenting months of theft, 27 files total, 27 pieces of proof. I sat back staring at that folder on my desktop, the camera footage showing her stealing, systematic, repeated, calculated, the Poshmark account showing her selling, my property advertised as hers, bringing in over $600. $600 while she lived in our house rent-free. While Michael paid her car insurance, her phone bill, bought her groceries, filled her gas tank. While she looked me in the eye and helped me search for my missing necklace. Did you check the bathroom? Maybe it fell behind the dresser. I'm sure it'll turn up. Knowing exactly where it had gone. Knowing she'd already sold it. Knowing some stranger in Memphis was wearing my grandmother's necklace while I cried over losing it. I checked the time on my laptop, 11:47 p.m. The house was silent around me. Michael had gone to bed an hour ago. I'd heard the bedroom door close, heard the lamp click off. Danielle's room had been quiet since she'd slammed the door hours earlier. I was the only one awake, the only one sitting in the dark with this knowledge. But tomorrow morning, that would change. Tomorrow, I'd wake Michael up early. Tomorrow, I'd show him everything. I closed the laptop, sat in the darkness of the living room, the only light coming from the street lamp outside filtering through the curtains. Tomorrow, the truth comes out. I kept scrolling through the sold listings, more jewelry, more clothes, items I didn't recognize mixed with things that made my chest tighten. Then I stopped. My heart seemed to stop with it. Vintage gold necklace with charm. The photo loaded. Delicate gold chain laid out on white fabric. Small oval locket hanging from the center. I could see the tiny engraving on the back edge barely visible in the image. My grandmother's necklace. I stared at the screen. That necklace was the last thing I had from her. The only physical piece left after she died 5 years ago. My mother had given it to me at the funeral. She wanted you to have this. I'd worn it on my wedding day to Michael, tucked under my dress where only I knew it was there, feeling the weight of it against my skin, connecting me to her on a day she couldn't be present for. I wore it on hard days, touched it when I missed her, kept it safe in that drawer because it meant everything to me. The listing description was brief, clinical. Vintage gold necklace with charm, great condition, classic piece. No mention that it was an heirloom. No mention that someone had loved it, worn it for 40 years, passed it down with trembling hands and tears. Just a vintage piece, a thing to be sold. Sold $85. Sold to Patricia M. in Memphis 2 months ago, January 18th. $85. The cost of a nice dinner, a tank of gas and groceries, a pair of shoes on sale. I'd cried for 3 days when it disappeared, torn the house apart, checked every pocket, every drawer, every corner, retraced my steps for a week, and Danielle had sold it for $85. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely control the mouse. I took screenshots, the profile page, this listing, every sold listing I'd found, the bracelet, the earrings, the hoops, the necklaces, all of it. 23 screenshots saved to my desktop. Then I opened the camera footage folder, the 7 videos I'd already saved, February 8th, January 22nd, February 19th, March 3rd, the others. Each one showing Danielle at that drawer, her hand taking something, pocketing it. I created a new folder, named it Evidence, dragged everything into it. The screenshots, the videos, file after file documenting months of theft. 27 files total, 27 pieces of proof. I sat back staring at that folder on my desktop, the camera footage showing her stealing. Systematic, repeated, calculated. The Poshmark account showing her selling. My property advertised as hers, bringing in over $600. $600 while she lived in our house rent-free. While Michael paid her car insurance, her phone bill bought her groceries, filled her gas tank. While she looked me in the eye and helped me search for my missing necklace. Did you check the bathroom? Maybe it fell behind the dresser. I'm sure it'll turn up, knowing exactly where it had gone. Knowing she'd already sold it. Knowing some stranger in Memphis was wearing my grandmother's necklace while I cried over losing it. I checked the time on my laptop, 11:47 p.m. The house was silent around me. Michael had gone to bed an hour ago. I'd heard the bedroom door close, heard the lamp click off. Danielle's room had been quiet since she'd slammed the door hours earlier. I was the only one awake. The only one sitting in the dark with this knowledge. But tomorrow morning, that would change. Tomorrow, I'd wake Michael up early. Tomorrow, I'd show him everything. I closed the laptop, sat in the darkness of the living room, the only light coming from the street lamp outside filtering through the curtains. Tomorrow, the truth comes out. Morning light filled the kitchen. Michael stood at the counter making coffee, measuring grounds into the filter like he did every morning. Danielle was still upstairs. Her door hadn't opened yet. I came down with my laptop. Michael glanced up. You're up early. Couldn't sleep. I set the laptop on the kitchen table. We need to talk, both of us, with Danielle. He saw my expression. The coffee scoop froze in his hand. What happened? Call her down here, please. He studied my face for another moment, then set down the scoop and headed for the stairs. I heard his footsteps overhead, his knock on her door, muffled voices, then footsteps coming back down. Danielle appeared behind him, still in pajamas, hair pulled into a messy bun, arms crossed over her chest. What now? Her voice dripped with irritation. I opened the laptop, turned it so they could both see the screen, clicked play on the March 15th footage, black and white video, timestamp 2:03 a.m., Danielle creeping down the stairs, pausing, taking the keys from the bowl. Michael watched in silence. Danielle huffed. So you already knew I took the car. I let the video play. Watch the timestamp. You left at 2:03. The crash was at 4:30. Michael's voice came out slow, careful. 2.5 hours. This wasn't a mistake, I said. This was a choice. Danielle's face hardened. Whatever. I clicked to the next video. February 8th. Danielle at the console table, opening the drawer, taking my bracelet. Then another date, January 22nd. Earrings. Stop. Danielle took a step forward. I kept playing them. February 19th. March 3rd, January 15th, February 27th. 7 different videos, 7 different thefts, all on camera. Michael stared at the screen, his coffee forgotten behind him starting to drip into the pot. I opened a browser window, pulled up the Poshmark profile. Danny B_Nash, I said. Danielle B. Nashville. Scrolled through the sold listings. Michael leaned closer, saw the gold hoops in the first photo. I gave you those for Christmas. Sold. I pointed to the price. $85. Kept scrolling. The bracelet, the pearl earrings, the necklaces, then the pendant. That's your grandmother's, Michael said quietly. Sold. $85 to a stranger in Memphis. Over $600 in sales. All stolen property. All sold online while she lived under our roof. Danielle backed toward the doorway. You're insane. This is crazy. My voice stayed calm, cold. It's evidence. Months of it. Michael straightened up. Something shifted in his posture. When he finally spoke, his voice came out barely above a whisper. You stole from her. From us. For months. She has plenty of jewelry. Danielle's voice pitched higher. She doesn't even wear half of it. That necklace was from my grandmother. I kept my eyes on her. The only thing I had left of her. I didn't know that. You didn't ask, you just took. Dad. Danielle turned to Michael, reaching for him. He stepped back, not anger on his face, something worse than anger. Finality. You crashed my car. His voice stayed quiet, but it carried weight. You lied about it. You blamed Michelle. You stole from her for months, sold her things online, things that didn't belong to you. I needed the money. We gave you money. We paid for everything. Your phone, your insurance, your credit card bills. It wasn't enough. So you stole from the woman who's been nothing but kind to you. Michael's jaw tightened. While she blamed herself for being careless, while she cried over losing her grandmother's necklace. Danielle's eyes filled with tears. Dad, please. Pack your things. The words dropped into silence. Danielle went completely still. What? Pack your things? Michael repeated. You're moving out. She stared at him like she didn't recognize who he was, like the person standing in front of her was a stranger wearing her father's face. Dad, you're not serious. His expression didn't change. I'm completely serious. I'm your daughter. Her voice rose, cracking on the last word. And you need to face consequences. Danielle whirled toward me. This is what you wanted, isn't it? I kept my voice steady. This is about your choices, not about me. She turned back to Michael, desperation replacing the anger. Where am I supposed to go? Figure it out. Michael crossed his arms, like adults do. She stared at him, waiting for him to take it back, waiting for him to soften, to say he didn't mean it, to let her stay if she just apologized. He didn't. Danielle grabbed her phone off the counter, stormed toward the stairs. We heard her voice carry down. Megan, can I stay with you? Muffled conversation. Megan's voice on the other end, too quiet to make out words. I don't know, a few days, maybe longer. Danielle's tone shifted between pleading and angry. My dad's being completely unreasonable. More conversation. Thank you. God, thank you so much. Then footsteps overhead. Heavy, furious footsteps. Drawers slamming open. Closet doors banging against walls. The sound of someone packing in a rage, throwing things into bags without care. I looked at Michael. He stood frozen in the same spot, staring at the empty staircase. Michael. I'm okay. But his voice said otherwise. The noise continued overhead. 40 minutes of crashing and slamming. Danielle making sure we heard every angry movement. Finally, footsteps on the stairs. She appeared with 2 large suitcases and a backpack. Face blotchy, eyes red but dry now. Jaw set hard. She walked past us toward the front door. Didn't look at either of us. Danielle. She stopped, hand on the doorknob, but she didn't turn around. Michael took a breath. I love you, but I can't help you while I'm still protecting you from reality. Her shoulders tensed. You're choosing her over me. I'm choosing honesty. His voice stayed quiet, firm. There's a difference. Danielle's hand tightened on the doorknob. For a moment, I thought she might say something else, might turn around, might try one more manipulation. Instead, she opened the door, walked out, didn't say goodbye, didn't look back, just dragged her suitcases down the front steps, threw them in the trunk of her Honda, and drove away. The door swung shut behind her. The house fell completely silent. No footsteps overhead, no drawers slamming, no music playing from her room, just silence thick and heavy. Michael stood frozen in the hallway, staring at the closed door. Then his shoulders started to shake. I went to him, wrapped my arms around him. He broke. Quiet, wrenching sobs, the kind that come from somewhere deep. The sound of a parent who's just had to choose between love and accountability and knows it's going to hurt for a long time. I held him, let him cry into my shoulder. Didn't say anything because there wasn't anything to say that would make this easier. You did the right thing, I finally whispered. His voice came out broken. She needs to learn. You can't teach her while you're still shielding her from her own mistakes. He nodded against my shoulder, but he kept crying. We stood there in the empty hallway for a long time, morning light streaming through the window, Coffee still dripping in the kitchen, forgotten. The house felt bigger without her, quieter, like we could finally breathe. The weeks after Danielle left were hard. She called Michael 5 times in the first week, each call the same pattern, crying, apologizing, begging to come home. "Dad, please, I'm sorry. I'll pay you back, I promise. Just let me come home." Each time, Michael said no, voice shaking but firm. "You need to figure this out on your own." I watched him hold that boundary, watched what it cost him, the way he'd stare at his phone after hanging up, jaw-tight, eyes wet. Week 3, the calls stopped. Month 2, Michael bought a used Toyota. Nothing fancy. A 2015 Camry with decent mileage, practical and affordable. We were still paying down the Lexus debt, but we were managing. Without the constant drama, Michelle and I grew closer. Our house became peaceful. No waiting for the next crisis. No walking on eggshells. Just quiet. Then 3 months after she left, the first check arrived. I brought in the mail and saw the envelope. Danielle's handwriting on the front. Inside a check for $300. The memo line read, "Lexus payment 1 of 117. I showed Michael when he got home from work. He stared at it for a long time. She's actually doing it. July brought the second check. $300. Memo, month 2. August the 3rd. $300. Month 3. Each one accompanied by a short note on a torn piece of notebook paper. Just the month number. No apologies, no explanations, just payments. September turned to October. Nashville autumn settled in. Leaves changing from green to gold and red. Cool mornings that required jackets. The smell of wood smoke in the evenings. Saturday morning, October 12th. The doorbell rang. I answered it. Danielle stood on our porch. She looked different. Older somehow. Her hair pulled back, simply no dramatic styling. Jeans and a plain sweater. Face bare of the usual heavy makeup. Tired, humbled. "Hi." Her voice came out quiet. "I was hoping we could talk." I studied her for a moment, then stepped aside. "Come in." I called for Michael. He appeared from the garage, saw Danielle, and went still. We sat in the living room, all 3 of us keeping careful distance. Danielle on the armchair, Michael and I on the couch. "I've been going to therapy," Danielle started, her hands twisted in her lap. "Dr. Amanda Price. She has an office over on West End." Michael nodded but didn't speak. "She diagnosed me with some stuff, self-worth issues, needing external validation." Danielle's voice stayed steady. "I've been in treatment for 3 months now." "That's good," I said carefully. "I got a job 5 months ago, retail at a boutique in Green Hills." She looked at Michael. "I've been working steadily, 40 hours a week. My boss says I'm doing well." "The checks," Michael said. "You've been making them from that job." "Yeah, I've saved $1,800 so far." She paused. "I want to start paying more, if you'll let me." Michael leaned forward. "Why now? Why come here now?" Danielle took a breath. "Because I finally understand, not just about the car, about everything." She turned to look at me directly for the first time. "I made your life hell. I stole from you. I turned Dad against you." "Why?" I asked quietly. Her eyes filled. "You weren't my mom. I was scared Dad loved you more than me." The first real vulnerability we'd ever seen from her. Michael's voice came out rough. "I'm glad you're getting help, but I'm not ready yet." Danielle nodded. Tears spilled over, but she didn't wipe them away. "I understand. Can I keep paying every month $300? "Yes," Michael said. "You can do that." Danielle left. But this time it felt different, like an ending that might become a beginning. Michael suggested coffee. Just coffee, he said. December arrived, 9 months since the crash. Holiday season settling over Nashville. Michael called Danielle on Monday evening. "Would you want to get coffee, just the 2 of us?" Tuesday afternoon he left at 2, came home just after 4. "We're not there yet," he said quietly. "But we're talking." I squeezed his hand. That's a start. The payments continued. October, November, December. $900 total now. 3 months of consistency. Christmas approached. One evening, Michael looked up from drying dishes. Should we invite her for Christmas dinner? I want to try. Christmas Day, 4:15. Danielle arrived with 2 small wrapped gifts. She handed me a cookbook. I remember you saying you wanted to try new recipes. Thank you. This is thoughtful. She gave Michael a biography, the musician he'd mentioned wanting to read last summer. You remembered, Michael said softly. Dinner was careful, polite, measured. She talked about her job. A customer had complimented her work ethic last week. Her manager mentioned a possible promotion after 6 months. Small things, real things. She asked about Michael's work, about the Toyota. Asked me about my job without any edge to the question. After dinner, Danielle helped clear the table. We stood at the sink together, me washing her drying. Thank you, she said quietly. For dinner. For letting me come. You're welcome. Awkward but sincere. She left after 2 hours, hugged Michael at the door, nodded respectfully to me. Merry Christmas. The door closed behind her. Michael and I stood in the quiet kitchen, lights from the tree reflecting off the window. That was good, Michael said. Yeah, it was. Not perfect. But real progress, built on truth instead of enabling. We sat together on the couch as evening settled in, both of us reflecting on how far we'd all come. 9 months from that March morning, miles from where we'd started. Later in the stillness, he finally said it. Christmas night, tree lights glowing softly, the house quiet around us. I never apologized to you, Michael said, for not believing you, for choosing her over the truth. You were just protecting your daughter. I was enabling her. His voice came out firm. There's a difference. I've learned that. She's learned that. All of us have. Do you think she's really changed? I think she's trying. That's all we can ask for. I thought back to that March morning, the empty driveway, the shock, Sophie's text messages with photos of twisted metal, how one moment had unraveled years of dysfunction we'd been too afraid to name, the camera footage revealing everything, the confrontation that forced the truth into the light. What if it had been my car? I asked. Michael waited. Then you never would have confronted her. You would have kept enabling. Nothing would have changed. He smiled without humor. I hate that you're right. Sometimes the worst thing is the best thing. I thought about this a lot. The challenges of blended families, loving someone's child when that child doesn't want you there, the line between supporting and enabling, how consequences become teachers when love alone isn't enough. Tough love is real love, the kind that holds boundaries even when it hurts. Protecting people from reality doesn't help them grow. It keeps them dependent. Our family would never be perfect, but now it was built on honesty instead of covering up problems, on truth instead of comfortable lies. That foundation was stronger than the false peace we'd had before. We're going to be okay, aren't we? Yeah, I leaned against his shoulder. We are. The wisdom settled over me. Sometimes loving someone means letting them face consequences, means watching them fall, knowing they need to learn how to get up on their own. Being kind doesn't mean shielding people from reality. Real change requires discomfort. Growth happens in the struggle, an earned peace, the kind that comes after pain, after hard choices. That peace is sweeter than any borrowed comfort. We sat together in the quiet of Christmas night. Outside, Nashville slept under winter stars. Inside, a family, imperfect, honest healing, had finally found its truth. Not perfect, not easy, but real, and that was enough. Looking back now, I see how close we came to losing everything. Don't be like me. Don't ignore red flags because confrontation feels uncomfortable. Don't protect someone from consequences when consequences are what they need to grow. I believe God gave me that camera. When I installed it for security, I had no idea he was providing the evidence I'd need to save my marriage. God works through our worst moments to bring about necessary change. God taught me that truth, however painful, beats comfortable lies every time. The lesson: family drama stories like mine don't resolve themselves. Family drama stories require courage to confront the truth. Family drama stories teach us that real love sometimes means saying no. I learned that heirlooms carry weight beyond their price tags. My grandmother's necklace, sold for $85 to a stranger in Memphis, is gone forever. Grandma stories aren't just about jewelry, they're about legacy. Grandma stories remind us some things are irreplaceable. Grandma stories teach us to protect what matters before it's too late. Blended families are hard. Loving someone's child when that child sees you as a threat requires wisdom I didn't have at first. The line between supporting and enabling is razor thin, and I crossed it repeatedly until that March morning forced my eyes open. Sometimes the worst thing that happens becomes the catalyst for desperately needed change. Danielle's still paying off that debt, still in therapy, still working at the boutique. We're not perfect, but we're honest now. That foundation matters more than I ever understood. Don't wait for your own crisis to set boundaries. Learn from my mistakes. Now I want to hear from you. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have confronted Danielle immediately when she came home? Or would you have waited for evidence like I did? Do you think Michael made the right choice asking her to move out? Or was it too harsh? And here's the big one. If you were in a blended family situation, how would you handle a stepchild who clearly resented you? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious about your perspective. Would you have handled this differently? What advice would you give to someone facing similar family dynamics? If this story made you think twice about enabling behavior in your own life, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And subscribe for more real conversations about navigating complicated family relationships. Remember, this story contains fictionalized elements for storytelling and educational purposes, but the core lesson about boundaries, accountability, and tough love, that's universally real.